everyone. Can you tell we live in two very different climates?
Yeah.
Classic. Welcome to the very last Audience Building Bootcamp in this series.
Absolutely.
What a whirlwind. What a last 6 weeks it has been, truly. Today is about how to maintain your author community. We've been talking about all the ways to build it up. Now let's have an honest conversation about how to keep it up. And because you're going to want to keep doing this throughout the entire time you have an author journey, writing a book, fundraising, and even after you publish. So we're setting the foundation, but we also want to set the foundation for good habits and the like.
Good sustainable habits at that. I mean, your activity as an author from an engagement standpoint will have peaks and valleys, but it's good to be we're going to be talking about how to be intentional about those seasons of more intense outreach and engagement, but also reinforcing consistency and sustainability, because we don't want to completely leave our audience in the dark. And we also don't want to completely burn out, because we're human beings who need rest.
100%. All right. Here we go. Let's do it.
Fire away. Bum, bum, bum.
Boom.
Look at that.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. My headphones were not working for a second. Anyway, cute little picture. Last one. Okay. Wait, why did I thought there was a meme in here. There is. This slide is first though. So how do we have a successful pre-launch campaign? For many of you watching this video, that is the next step. That's what's going to happen. You've completed the boot camp. You've prepared yourself. You've prepared yourself for what's ahead of you, which is pre-launching your book. Now, whether that means pre-launching and telling all of your audience and having a campaign in that sense, or a fundraising pre-launch campaign, both are very essential to building community, which is essential to successfully publishing a book. So why have we been doing audience building this whole time? We're going to be talking about how community-powered publishing works, why it matters, how important it is to maintain an audience, continue engaging, building a cadence, finding your niche and leaning into it. And just remember also that it's worth noticing what gets engagement. A lot of the times this is a trial and error thing, because algorithms change, current events happen, all the things. And so you just have to put stuff out there and see what sticks. So don't be afraid. Also, don't be afraid to post. Don't be afraid to just put things out there and see what your audience responds to. That's my thoughts on that one.
100%. I love this meme so much. First of all, we just put a hand clap for how adorable this child is, to start. But also, the question that we are posing, how well do you know your audience? Because at the end of the day, at different points, at different points of your book journey, you will be talking to different people. But as you press into your book journey, you'll understand who are your ride or dies, the people who want to be invested at basically every aspect of your process. So how well do you know the people that are already in your corner? And how well do you know the kinds of people who you want to increasingly be part of your growing corner?
Totally. So once again, community-powered publishing, maintaining your audience, preparing for a pre-launch campaign. That's what we're going over today. So love this quote. Kyra, you have really great thoughts about this quote.
No man is an island unto himself. Ultimately, isolation is a dangerous thing for multiple reasons. Of course, reinforcing healthy boundaries is important in many aspects of life, including in aspects pertaining to the development of your audience, and just being cognizant of what you need to do to maintain your physical, mental, spiritual well-being throughout different aspects of this process. Because full disclosure, it is hard. And there will be parts where you feel like it is more about independent work. But no man is an island unto himself, in that you do not have all, like, don't expect yourself to have all the answers and all the resources you need to succeed in this process. In fact, leaning into other people, allowing other people to care for you and support you in this is what's going to make this whole process all the more bearable at times and all the more rewarding overall.
Absolutely. Okay, so community-powered publishing, the process that you're about to enter into. We've been learning a lot about community over the past 5 to 6 weeks, but the publishing process that you're about to enter into, especially those going into New Degree Press, cohort-based writing program. So what this looks like is a bunch of people coming in together and writing and going through everything together at the same time. Over the next 5 months, you're going to be working and seeing a lot of the same people, other authors, people in your same storm, different ships, right? You'll also be getting help to write a great book from a community of other people working alongside you. A slew of editors, author coaches, cover designers, layout, all the things. The other piece where community comes into play is with the pre-sale campaign. So this is where you're gathering beta readers and market validation for your book, especially if you're doing a pre-sale campaign to fundraise the cost to produce your book. Sell enough to cover your costs, build beta readers. What you will end up doing in that fundraising campaign is pre-selling more books than most independent authors ever sell in the total lifetime of their book. The proof is in the community aspect of it. People coming behind you to grow, support, help, assist. It takes a village, whatever cliche you want to insert there. So grow via community support. Ah, yes. Okay, Kyra, take it away.
Absolutely. Put this in all caps in your mind, stamp it in there, please. It's ultimately for the best to bear in mind. It's important to remember that consistency and quantity does matter to an extent, but don't think you have to post or circulate things every single day or every other second just for the sake of the production of content. It's not about volume. It's about navigating that balance between consistency and quantity and excellence and quality. And if you have to choose one or the other, quality, always choose quality. So to this slide, what you share should add value to your audience's experience. And then there are different ways of adding value. It can look nice, be aesthetically pleasing. It can teach you something new, and it could be relatable and authentic. For example, memes. There's a reason why we started off our times with memes. It sets the tone for really the informative but still casual nature of our boot camp together. But also it makes things a little bit more lighthearted and contextualizes our discussion in a fun, relatable way. So
we want you to know that we're real people who you can actually ask us questions to. It's not just a pre-recorded lecture.
Yes, exactly. So quality over quantity, and just a quick other note to say about that. Quality comes when you come with your full self. So
yes,
don't feel like there needs to be some sort of formulaic way of conveying a story. Like obviously there are ways it's important to be coherent, but don't feel that there's a fixed mold of what quality content is. If this quality content is coming from you, that will just lend to your author brand the most. Don't be like, oh yes, this person is doing this thing, I'm going to do exactly like this way because they have a big audience. You can borrow some of their formatting, but don't think that you putting on a facade of trying to be somebody else is going to help you. You don't want to be Walmart insert person here. You want to be prime peak you.
And then consistency, consistency over chaos. Really, when you're getting started with this, it's, again, great to start off with good habits. Trying to find a posting engagement schedule. So it's not just posting, but just engaging and interacting with platforms, people, and spaces in general. Finding a schedule that's best optimized for you to maintain. So, for example, doing something once a week is better than sporadically. And sporadically, I mean like you post once this week, once next week, and then never again for 3 months, and then not again for 3 weeks after that. And that just makes engagement with your audience really challenging because they have no idea what's going on. They want to support you, but they don't know how when you disappear, and reappear, and just they don't know where you are or how to best support you. So people can only support you if you tell them what's going on and what you need. So interfacing with your audience often will also make you seem more accessible and fun, but it'll give people an easier time to support you in the ways that you need to be supportive. And planning when you post in advance reinforces effective implementation. Now, I know that sounds really fancy, but ultimately what I'm saying here is that it's just easier. If you plan when you post, and even also if you plan scheduled posts to go out with things like Later or Buffer or Hootsuite, where it just goes out for you, even better. And then it reinforces that same habit, and you know for sure that those things are going to go out. So yeah, consistency over chaos any day.
Truly.
Oh, this one, you guys, 1 view is greater than 0 views. And what we mean by that is, try not to get caught up. Again, we're just putting things out there to see what sticks and see what people engage with. And just because it gets 1 like, that's better than 0, right? 1 view, better than 0 views, because we want to know what's working and we need data to go off of with that. So if a video doesn't do well, then try something different. What you're doing is not easy. Be kind to yourself. Know that you're not alone, and know that people are watching. They're paying attention. That's not meant to be creepy. That's meant to be reassuring in that people are paying attention and want to engage with you and want to help you. And so, yeah, acknowledge that some posts will have more engagement than others, and you'll want to think about why. Also know that the algorithm is not, I say this, the algorithm's not out to get you. There are some ethical issues with algorithms and how it treats and profiles certain people, but be aware of its rules and changes. And especially if you follow and engage with other creators, they're going to tell you. You don't have to worry about finding out what these things are. They will tell you what changes are happening. And most of the time, people will be complaining about them and making content to complain about the new changes. So just be aware of that and how it can work for you. For example, when Instagram Reels first released that feature, anything that if you posted anything, because you could do a number of things. You could do an Instagram Live, you could do a regular post, you could do a video. If you posted a Reel, Instagram would bump and promote your post because it wants people to keep using that feature. So that's just an example. Any other examples or thoughts about this one, Kyra?
So, yeah, I mean, I just want to concur with all aforementioned statements, and that it's all about the gathering of data. And also bear in mind that if there's a form of content that might not get the response that you want at first, if it's something that you absolutely love, like, don't abandon the entire idea. Like, ultimately, it's kind of like navigating that balance of, it's about the collection of data. It's about knowing, like, you want to enjoy the content that you produce, right? Like, you want to enjoy and see what resonates with your audience. But at the same time, like, don't let the data you're receiving 100% dictate what you do. Like, you don't have to press into what's in vogue just for the sake of being in vogue. You don't have to go viral just for the sake of going viral. Like, if you were to go viral for something that has nothing to do with the broader context of who you are and what your book is, how does that ultimately help you? So what serves you best is continuing to make the content that you want to make, being cognizant of what seems to be resonating, and choosing the extent to which you want to lean into different pockets of that. If it just so happens that the thing that you enjoy the most is the thing that people seem to resonate with, that might be because they see how much you enjoy it.
Okay. Preparing for pre-launch. rocket ship emoji. How to have a successful pre-launch 101. This is the secret sauce. This is what we want to share with you guys. Additionally, once you get into the process, there will be a series, very nuanced, detailed series led by author coaches who have done it before to teach you what they did in order to have a successful pre-launch. So again, doing this whole process like second-time authors, looking to other people who have done the thing in order to do the thing, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's take out the guessing work. Let's see what other people did and implement those things. So here's what other people have done. How to have a successful pre-launch. Personalized messaging. If you get nothing else from this slide, that is the number one thing. When you are pre-launching your book for pre-order, for fundraising, telling people that your book is going to be published, call them, text them, email. Email's underrated. But above all else, personalized. You are going to be sending a lot of messages, and it can get and will get, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, a little overwhelming. But to keep it from not feeling like you're shouting into the void, you're going to want to avoid copy and pasting everything as much as possible. People can see right through that. You reached out to someone for a reason. Let them know why. People are honored that you are choosing to tell them that you are writing and publishing a book. They will be excited to claim you as an author that they know. Most people don't know a published author. So when you say, I am planning to write and publish a book, this is what's happening in my life. You're going to want to personalize it. And you're going to want to tell people about it. And again, like we talked about when DMing people on Instagram, avoid sounding like a robot as much as possible. Be authentic and real you. Engage with social media every day throughout your campaign. Most of these campaigns will be 30 days, exactly 30 days. And you don't have to necessarily post every single day, but do something on social media every day so that people know that this campaign is happening and that they can come and support you. Because if they don't know what's happening, they can't come help you. So what that means is post or share something or comment on something thoughtfully. Most importantly, just letting your backers and your community know stuff is happening. And also know that your backers, the people, so this is particularly for people who are fundraising the cost of their book, the people who are going to pay to support you are potentially different than the target audience and readership for your book once it's published. And we will talk about marketing strategies to your backers. We will talk about marketing strategies to your readership if you are signing up for the New Degree Press publishing program. We will be guiding you through all of those things. Okay, so now is the time for the questions. Let me pull up the Q&A banner. So cute. Ask your question in the chat. Yes, there are some questions. Let's scroll up to the top. Hello. What do you do if you target one audience but find out a few months in that your audience is actually different than you thought? How do you make that shift effectively? That's a great question, because like we said, you're going to test stuff out and you're going to see what sticks. And your audience might end up being different than you previously thought. You just run with it. And you continue to create content that, one, feels authentic to you.
Right.
And two, your audience is engaging with. And the larger it gets, naturally those people will come to you. You just have to be as open as possible so that they can find you, which means like posting, right? Like engaging with social media so that people can find you and learn about your work and come to you.
Mm-hmm. And
you have thoughts on this, Kyra? Yeah.
Another thing to bear in mind too is that your audience might be different than what you initially thought, but they might not be different in the way that matters most to your book. Like, say, for example, you thought that the people who are going to be interested in your book, actually, I think you touch on this in a later comment, that you think that the people who are going to resonate most with your book are from a certain age demographic, like early 20s, YA, etc. But you find that a lot of the readers who are reaching out to you are older. Yes, although like within the genre market, there does kind of seem to be this fascination with like age, like appropriateness of like what young adult, teen, middle grade, things like that. That's how genre categorization works. But the commonality between what you imagine and what you and who's reading it is probably what they're actually interested in, what your book actually discusses. I happen to know your book is a work of historical fiction. So what matters is that the audience that you are accessing is heavily invested in historical fiction. And unless there is content that is currently being produced that is about specifically young person experiences, you don't have to change what you're already doing. So it's like just appeal to the targeting. Like you targeted an audience not for their age, you targeted an audience for what they're interested in, unless what you're talking about is specific to an age. Like if you're writing about being a member of Gen Z, like that kind of thing. So it does require a lot of nuance, but I think that if you're seeing trends, the question to ask yourself is, if your audience looks different than what you expected, what is the similarity between the audience that you're having versus the audience that you initially wanted? And then you realize, actually, this is the audience I wanted all along, because all I really want are the people who are responding to my book.
Totally. Okay. You've been lucky to be supported by a lot of companies in your work. Would you recommend reaching out to them for pre-sale? Yes. Especially if the work that you do is related to the book that you're writing, which I'm imagining it is. Then absolutely you should reach out to people who have this goes for everyone. Anyone who's supported you in the past is the first person you should be talking to when asking for support for something else. For example, and you'll often hear this called your super fan. For me, asking my parents for support was a no-brainer because they have consistently been a support system in my life. Asking my best friend for support, again, a no-brainer because they are someone who has provided support to me in the past. So for you, in your case, companies that have provided support of your work, individuals that work at those companies even. This could also go for people who have former coworkers, people that you worked with in the past but don't work with anymore. I still reached out to my former coworkers when I pre-sold my book, and they were more than happy to support and contribute. So you'll be surprised at who comes out of the woodwork, so to speak, when you start doing this. But totally. Do I need to have a pro-level social media account? No. No. Don't feel like you got to spend money on like social media or on your scheduling service. If you want the extra features on scheduling services, you can update to pro accounts where it'll do things like recommend hashtags for you, allow you to add locations and all these kinds of things. I've functioned well without having to do that. The only thing I pay for monthly is my Canva subscription. That I use all the dang time. I make things like bookmarks, posters, social media posts, business cards, all the things. I definitely like having my pro account. So that's my one plug for Canva. But don't feel like you have to have a pro level social media account. Unless for some of you, if you're especially business oriented, LinkedIn might be the one place where the recommendation is different. But yeah. This is comforting. Oh. Can I repeat the part about if you are our publisher? Not sure what part you're referring to. Do you have any specific recommendations to get companies to support you with corporate or large pre-orders? Okay, I have thoughts on this. Sooner rather than later. Start the conversation as soon as possible, and not necessarily on day one of your campaign, because you have 30 days to fundraise if you're doing or if you're just doing a pre-order, your campaign lasts a limited amount of time. And one of the biggest problems with companies, whether nonprofit or for-profit, is red tape and just bureaucracy and the nature of communication being digital and slower. Ideally, get on the phone with someone as soon as possible. Call. Even if you call first and then send an email saying, hey, I called. That's my number one thing, because you can get someone on the phone and you can start the conversation and get it moving faster. That's going to be your best friend. So that's my specific recommendation for getting them to support you, is that start the conversation sooner and get people on the phone, because it's something that's possible. People do it every time we do this. People are working with companies, with nonprofits. The other biggest recommendation I have is working with individuals specifically. For example, if you're looking to partner with a nonprofit in particular, and I plan to do a video where I talk more extensively about this, reach out to individuals who work for that company as their individuals, because chances are you picked the nonprofit because it's related to something you talk about in your book. And if somebody works for the nonprofit, they're also interested in that topic because they're devoting 80% of their day to it. So reaching out to them as individuals is going to get you further quicker than reaching out to the entity as a whole to represent and support you. That's my other recommendation.
A quick thing
also, Canva is life.
A quick thing that I'll say to that too is that ultimately, when you approach these larger companies, and this is something that we'll talk more explicitly about if you're inside the New Degree Press ecosystem, but oftentimes companies like events. They like having something exclusive attached to the purchase of a large book copy. So this might not necessarily be the thing you initiate the conversation with, but be prepared to offer a special company-wide workshop or something to that effect in tandem with their book, with your books.
And then to repeat again for you guys, because now I understand what you're talking about, Ron. If you guys are moving forward, so if you're watching this video because you're a part of the Audience Building Bootcamp, you're within Quip, and you're moving forward with New Degree Press as your publisher for your work, then the next step and the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to be connecting with some people who are going to be sending you some contracts and some information to get you started with things like producing your video for your campaign page, deciding whether you're doing a fundraising or funding up front and doing a different method where you do a pre-sale later. All of these things will be communicated with you guys very shortly. And what'll get started, the next thing is to get started on that fundraising campaign and or editing your book. Which is very exciting.
Very exciting. As a quick plug, something that we want to make sure you guys are very intentional about in finishing out this Audience Building Bootcamp strong, because technically this is our last official session, but we'll be accessible if you guys are in the Quipverse. We will be accessible via Quip if you guys have questions. But be very, 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 very time to the infinitieth power, whatever, about making that list of people that you plan on intentionally reaching out to. Like, have that list now. You want to know who you're reaching out to before you start that official outreach. So we recommend having at least 100 people on the list, but really you want to target more than that, perhaps 250 to 300. You want to have that many names on your list, and you know a lot more people than you think you do. So coming across those names, though that number sounds daunting, it is much more accessible than you think. So all of that is to say, as you move into the next steps that Mackenzie was describing, you want to move into them knowing the community you already have access to and the audience that you will continue to cultivate.
So for this next question, and someone did add a helpful comment in the chat to this one. I admittedly am still trying to figure this one out myself. But Kyra, do you have any insights on any tricks on getting onto book club lists, especially for non-business related books? So things like fiction, poetry, memoir in particular.
So the first thing that comes to mind is, because there are so many different types of book clubs, so you could reach out to your local library, for example. Local libraries facilitate all kinds of book clubs. So, and if you are people love local authors. So if you approach a local library and say that perhaps this won't necessarily create too much leverage in your pre-sale campaign explicitly, in the sense that libraries usually can't pre-order books in advance, which has its own details and implications. But all of that is to say, go to the spaces where you can leverage how you're already a member of the community. Go to your local library, go to your place of worship, go to, if you know people who have book clubs, you could just say, hi, like, here is my book. If you mean like how any tricks on getting into book club lists in the more like corporate sense, like how to get on book club lists for particular companies, leverage the individual relationships, as Mackenzie was saying earlier. Leverage the individual relationships you have with specific people inside of that company. Because, you know, even if, say, you work for a family counseling center and your book is about family dynamics, perhaps like somebody inside of your group even like might want to read it, do it as a company read through, like just for as a means for community building amongst each other. And so that is what I would automatically recommend. But again, book clubs, in the same way as pre-sale campaigns or really anything, manifests itself on different levels. And the best way to access any echelon of society is through pre-existing relationships.
Totally. Folks, we have reached the end of questions in the comment threads over here on the side. But if you do at any point have any additional questions for us, you are still able to interact with us on Quip. You can leave a comment on this video. We do monitor them and do come back and answer them. And or reach out to us at any of the things below or in the description and the like. So we are available. This is not like the end of you being able to see and or interact and get advice from us. So don't let that scare you. And also, this is not the end. You're not done with us yet. So yeah, that's all we have for you tonight. That is the end of the Audience Building Bootcamp. That is the wrap up. I'm excited to see what happens to you guys next and where your books go.
Yeah, we're staying tuned for some stories of greatness. So we're very excited.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye, beautiful people.